Morning, friends. Welcome back to the 1870s Homestead. My name's Rachel, and we're out in the garden today. So excited, trying to maintain that positive spirit, like I'm sure a lot of you are. We have just been inundated with rain, and first I want to say my heart goes out to everyone that was affected over the last couple weeks with just torrential weather and tornadoes. There's so much devastation, so I am so thankful that we were spared that. And if you're in the area, I pray that very quick recoveries for you all and that you have availability to the resources that you need. What we're struggling with is just the rain. The garden has not had a chance to dry out. I'm pretty sure I'm going to have like half the potato crop, but the potatoes have probably rotted with all the rain. So I could always go back and plant more. I still have plenty of time to do that, which I may. But we're going to give the garden a chance to dry out just a second. But over the last couple weeks, I've just been piddling in the garden since I've had you guys with me, doing just some weed maintenance before I get to the next set of beds that I'll be planting. But this weekend, we're planting our green beans and our wheat. And then next weekend, it'll be peppers and tomatoes, a lot of flowers, things like that. So one of the big projects I have to do today is over this week, I've been spreading cardboard on the pathways that I didn't finish mulching last fall. We're going to finish getting those mulched, and Todd's going to get in here and help me get the trellises put up for the tomatoes and the green beans. He kind of wants his garden projects done so he can move on to projects he needs to focus on. And that's typically how the garden season goes, is he'll help me do the prep and the put to bed. I'll manage the garden through the growing season, and then he manages like the big property projects during the summer. So let me show you what's good, what's bad, and I'll take you guys through the day with me out here in the garden. Well, the 4 raised beds behind me, I think you guys can see the onions are growing great. I came through and sowed my carrots. Carrots are doing great. I was, for the first time ever, didn't sow my carrots the way I've always done every single year. I don't know why I'm choosing this year to do so many things differently when things have always worked for me in the past. But 2 things, trying the easy ways where I've taken harder ways before and seeing if there's any success in that for me. I'm always up for easier. And this year, I always used my square foot garden spacing tool in the past for my carrots and did every 16 per square foot. This year, I just ran 5 rows per square foot all the way down and sprinkled the carrot seed with the intention to successfully come back and thin them. So I did do some thinning this week. I'll do some more. They were just still so teeny tiny. I was accidentally pulling too many. So I think I'm going to wait till they get a little bit bigger. And the onions have successfully finally rooted themselves after getting knocked over by birds many, many times. And the rains just flooding them up and out. So I think the onions that will grow are left. And I see new growth in them. They're doing well. They're ready for their first feeding, actually. They were probably ready for their first feeding a week ago, but I can't get a break in the rain to come out and give them their dose of feed because I use a liquid fertilizer. I could definitely put down some granular fertilizer, and I may have to resort to that for this initial feeding. So you can't see a couple sections of this, but this was my potato row, and you'll see they kind of peter out about halfway down. That my entire garden, both from the back and the front, slopes this way. And as much as I've tried to build it up, my earth is sandy earth, and it just consumes a lot of what you put on it. And I'm not sure that any of those at the end are going to come up. It's just sopping wet. It was wet when I planted them, not like standing water, but soggy. And I think I'm just going to have to let that section of the garden dry out and do a second planting of potatoes down there. But the ones that are coming up are looking great. So that's good. We planted Kennebec potatoes. It's my favorite potato for canning. They really, really hold their texture, and they're a great just long-term storage potato. I'll squeeze the camera in here just so you have some B-roll while I talk. The broccoli and cabbage are doing great, really, really well. The broccoli is probably, I don't know, 1.5 feet tall already, 18 inches tall. And down here, you guys probably can't see him, but I planted some dill in these 2 holes to try to fend off the moths, and a little bunch of the extra onions I had just for spring onions and also for repellent. So I had dill and onions planted at both ends of the beds, and I'm not seeing any of the chard. Was it chard? What did we plant inside? Something we planted inside there. I don't remember right now off the top of my head. I don't think I'm seeing any of that popping up just yet. But I did see right over here a kale, and I didn't plant that. I have so much kale that comes back in my garden every single year in random places. And it is just one of those crops that you plant it once, I swear you will never have to plant it again. If you're anything like me, if you let it accidentally go to seed or go to seed on purpose just because you're done harvesting it, yet you like the look of the plant. Kale is another thing that just I see popping up all over the garden. And now these beds, I thought I was going to have to use for onions. I don't. So these will probably get dedicated to zucchini and maybe some peppers. But the last thing that's growing super well in the garden are my strawberries and the rhubarb's popping up. So let me show you that. Alrighty, so the one thing that spring rain is phenomenal for, like you want a dousing of rain in warm weather, is your strawberries. And this strawberry patch is not intended to be here. It happened naturally over last year. I used to have in my garden where the cabbage and broccoli is growing, I had 2 other smaller raised beds that were dedicated to strawberries. When I took that out, I planted the fence row that you guys are currently at with strawberries. Those strawberries are still there, but last year they spread all through my garden, and this little patch is pretty much all I left and completely loaded in blossoms. I gave them a good feeding of just all-purpose fertilizer this spring, and I think they're doing great. They're definitely getting challenged by our companion planted. I don't know if they're competing with one another or thriving off one another. Is Creeping Charlie all in there? So I'm gonna just deal with that another day. And then right down here at your guys' feet is the 2 rhubarb plants right here. And then of course, if you remember, whoops, let me bring you guys back. Right here, we're forcing this one. So that one, pretty soon, we're gonna at least be able to peek at it and see how it's doing. I'm thinking like June 1st will be time to harvest that, but I might be wrong and it could be a lot sooner. So probably next week I'll peek at it, and it'll have been probably right at 4 weeks since we covered it. And I think you're supposed to let it go 6 to 8 weeks, something like that. But that's pretty much the bulk of what's doing good in the garden. Now you're gonna see behind me, hopefully you guys can see that green matter back there was where the peas were supposed to grow. And I think I have like a total of 9 pea plants that came up again from the rain. So, and that is the only section in the garden that I really haven't weeded. And I think what I'm going to do is just dedicate that section to cucumbers for the summer, and then we'll do a pea planting for the fall. So not an urgent issue right now to get that weeded. I'll get to that next week. My handy dandy handyman is out here now measuring out for putting up the tomato trellises over there. And you'll see all my cardboard in my wood pathways. I need to finish cardboarding, and then I have this pile of wood chips that are ready for me. So it's just going to be another putzing kind of day, getting some garden prep done. I hope it's going fun where you guys are, and I'm feeling like a little bit of a beginner gardener this year, oddly, after taking last year off. Like, I feel like I have to get my feet wet again. So far, things are going okay. So let me go help Todd get his spacing right, and then I'll be back with you guys shortly.
So this is where the tomatoes are going to go this year, right along this north section of our garden. I think Rachel had originally planned on having us put landscape fabric down over this whole section. We were going to burn holes for our T-post and hang our cattle panels across. As of this morning, she changed her mind. She's like, I don't want to mess with it. We have enough landscape fabric in the garden for now. It's a good experiment. We do the whole thing. Basically, if it fails and we've done the whole thing, we're going to regret it. So we'll do about half the garden this year, maybe a little bit less than that as an experiment. Tomatoes will stay stocked. We have about 8 feet to deal with here. So from this edge, we're going to come in about 2 feet, and then from the other edge, we're going to come about 2.5 feet. I don't know exactly how long they're going to be, 24 feet long, something like that, with cattle panels. And we are using 7-foot long T-posts instead of the normal like 5-footers or 6-footers. At least I think they're 7-footers. They're either 6 or 7. That way, what it allows you to do is to get your cattle panels up higher off the ground. So you essentially hang your cattle panel up high. So there's a gap between the bottom of the panel and the ground, which lets your tomatoes ultimately get taller, because cattle panels are only so tall. So by raising them up, that gives you extra space for your food to grow. I think the first year we did this, we used those special metal clips that you use for T-posts to tie fencing to it. And you have that special little tool, and you got to kind of wrap it around. Then I think after that became like a pain in the butt. So the next year we used baling wire. It was much easier. Today we tried to use the same baling wire, and it was not going well. Like every time I would try to use my pliers to like twist the wire to get it tight, it would snap. So I don't know if like the baling wire is just old and rusty, but we switched to zip ties, and it's going much smoother, much easier. We just got some like super heavy duty, like 300-pound breaking strength zip ties or something, and it's going a lot smoother. But we need to straighten this post right here. This one's really wonky. Or leave it.
Leave it.
Leave it? Okay. But it's going good. We got this side done. We're wrapping up this side, and then we're going to move to the back of the garden, the west end, and work on the same type of setup, but not as tall, because we don't have any more tall T-posts, and that will be for green beans, pole beans.
Well, that is a wrap, friends. I'm afraid we have been out here since 10 o'clock this morning, and I gardened a little differently today. I think I mentioned that at the beginning. Like, I'm doing a lot of things differently this year, but one of the things was like I don't know, every 15, 20 minutes, I just come sit here in my rocking chair and rock and relax and just enjoy the day and try not to rush through it. I think we can lose some of the joy in any way I can when I feel like this pressure to get so much done. And I'm going to be very intentional this year about not rushing, enjoying, living in the present moment, doing a lot of thoughtfulness, and then my wood paths now are my paths in my garden. I can walk without getting wet. The trellises are all up and ready. I think tomorrow we're going to come out and plant our wheat. So stay tuned for that. I'm really excited. It's the first time ever, and it's just a fun experiment. It's going to be a trial, so I know if I plant this many square feet of wheat, how much is the yield? I'm not expecting a ton, but it would give me a measurement scale that if I wanted to do a larger plot in the future, I could. And I think it's just going to be fun this year. We'll use a lot for fall decorations probably, and it'll be just a stunning sight in the garden. And yeah, so I got out here at 10 a.m. this morning.